Jay here for Stretford Paddock. This is a live review. Joining me as always is Joe Smith. Crystal Palace 0, Manchester United 0. Not a lot to say about that, but we are going to get into it in a minute. First of all, though, we're going to talk a little bit about the OneFootball app, which is a lot more exciting than that ball fest we've just served up there. Yeah. If you don't know about the OneFootball app, we were talking about this during the game and before the game as well. It's an app that pretty much does everything for you when it comes to football and sort of articles, reviewing the games, information, all the latest news as well. It's got some great sort of transfer stuff on there.
I was going to say, United at the minute, we need players.
Yeah.
And one of the great things about the app is it literally lists, as you could see on the screen then, Man United interested in Varane. They give a rating, they give a prediction on how likely these things are to happen. Yeah. It's a really good app. It basically covers everything. It's live scores, it's news, it's videos. It's sort of an all-in-one video access, transfers, everything, football package. It's really very good app.
Yeah, it is. I've been looking at it for a little while now. I was messing about. It's got that AR on it, the actual reality, the
augmented reality.
Augmented reality. There you go. You see, show me AJ. Augmented reality, where you can bring up all the tactics and stuff like that, and it shows that you're like, you're in the studio going through the setup, which may be something that Manchester United could do with doing a little bit more of. But yeah, like Joe was saying there, if you check out the app, it's free to download. There's a link in the description, so go and have a look at that. It's got all the latest news, whether it's not just Manchester United news, which is obviously the most relevant to United fans, but also other transfer stories, other injury updates. You can go through as well for games, so it's got you the live updates of games. So if you don't want to watch the 0-0.
Yeah, if you want to watch Leicester drop points instead of United drop points, all on there.
You can get the updates on there, and it'll give you the live commentary and what's going down in terms of tactics really and stuff, and substitutions and goals and all that sort of, all those updates. So do check it out. As we said, it's free to download, link in the description. OneFootball app.
Other than that then,
moving on to something less
exciting.
It's
weird hearing the word one, isn't it? Because we've heard so much of the word nil recently.
What's the score? Is that our third 0-0?
Third 0-0 on the bounce, on the spin, on the trot.
I mean,
it's just shite.
It seems like both collectively and individually we're awful. In terms of the performances of players today, and sorry, I should have said this earlier, but I forgot. Do hit a like button. Not liking about the game, but like about the video. Hit a like, get involved in the comments as well. We want to hear what you guys have got to say. But yeah, in terms of performances tonight, other than perhaps Dean Henderson, I don't think anyone in a white shirt or a zebra shirt had a good game. No. So maybe you could argue that Eric Bailly was okay, Harry Maguire was okay. I don't think it was particularly bad. But other than that, it was just pretty poor. It was like, if you give them ratings, they'd be like 3 and 4s out of 10 across the pitch. Am I being harsh there? Or?
No, I think everyone was terrible. Bruno was terrible. Rashford was terrible. Cavani, you almost felt sorry for him, but he didn't help himself particularly. Didn't do much. He didn't get on the ball particularly a lot. I know he's not the sort of striker that's going to have 100 touches in a game. Greenwood didn't do anything. Fred was, I don't even know what to say about Fred's performance. I'm sure we'll talk more about it in a minute. Matic didn't really do anything. Luke Shaw looked sloppy and like, back to sort of where he had been 6 months or so ago, where you just think, is he even really trying to do anything? Wan-Bissaka's passing was awful. Maguire playing people on side. His heading was terrible. His passing was terrible. Eric Bailly was the more... he was on the rash end of things and not really doing a whole hell of a lot himself either. Dean Henderson, had a fine game. I thought he was one of the only people who came out of this not looking worse than when the game started. But I suppose with a 0-0, if anyone's going to have had a good game, it's your goalkeeper. But you look at the stats there, United had 1 shot on target. And these 11 shots that we had, make no mistake, it's not one of those games where, that whistled past the post, or that almost went in, or they almost tapped in, they just didn't quite get there. These are like speculative shots from the edge of the box, balls going over the top, shots going well wide of the post. We didn't get close to scoring today. We never once looked remotely like scoring a goal today. And this is against Crystal Palace, who admittedly have had a few fluky results where they've been terrible, they've sat back, they've done nothing, and they've got a couple of draws and some wins recently. But even so, this is a team that's a mid-table team that has ridden their luck to even be mid-table. If it was if it was up to how they actually play Crystal Palace, they would be in and amongst the relegation battle. It's only been an incredible sort of, and again, I'm not the biggest fan of XG, but you look at how in recent weeks they've outperformed some of the games they've played in. They're getting more points than they deserve, and they're still only 13th, and yet we made them look like like Jose's Inter Milan, just defensively brilliant. We couldn't get near him. We couldn't make a chance. We couldn't do anything. Our midfield couldn't find passes. And, when that's Bruno's job, fair enough, he's going to make some mistakes because he's trying to break the lines. He's trying to break down defenses. He's trying to make that final pass that turns possession into goals. Whereas Fred, it's not his job to break down the lines because he can't do it. So when he's giving the ball away 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times in a game, there's no excuse for that. There's no reason for him to do that. And that was the pattern of the game. We can't create anything through the middle. We play the ball out wide. They suffocate us because their wingers come back and they've got a full-back and a winger doubling up on our winger. We don't really get anything done. And the whole game was just a repetitive, turgid, lackluster, just implosion, essentially. And by the end, you got Bruno's face where he's freaking out and shouting at people, and then got this sort of almost sorry for himself look where can't even be asked to shout at people anymore. It looks as though they know they're playing terrible at the moment. It's not, what in recent weeks had been a sort of, all in this together, hands in the middle, cheering type, fist bumping performances has been replaced by, oh, well, we didn't expect to win and look, we're shit. And it seems like we know it at the minute.
Someone in the super chat was asking, I think it was Alexander Kugo asking about Steve. Steve, me and Steve will be back on Friday together on the Howson's Brew.
Yes.
So don't worry about that. Howson's fine. He's just spared himself the torture of watching this. Also, Sam Roston says the players like the weather went missing.
Misting.
Sorry, I misread that. I mean, what do you put this down to? You mentioned quite a lot there when you were talking about summing it all up. But can you make any excuses in terms of, and I'm going to just allow me to play devil's advocate. I'm not making these excuses, but fatigue, fog, a change of personnel. Are there any excuses you can get for that pile of excrement that was served up, or is it just? It's just not good enough. Can you give any sort of mitigating circumstances? Just seen a graphic then or a stat then. I think we've drawn 5 of the last 7 games. I mean, there's no sugarcoating that. That's terrible.
Yeah.
Because basically...
That's 10 points dropped.
Yeah, 10 points dropped in 7 games. So that's what you dropped 10 out of possible 21. It's ridiculous. And what worries me is we're going into the Etihad against a team that has literally won 21 games on the spin, and we can't beat the likes of Crystal Palace. I mean, do you make any excuses? Or is it just a case of these players are letting themselves down? Or is it the manager?
Yeah.
What is it?
I mean, every team that isn't, that isn't a world-class top-end team goes through points like this in a season. And we started pretty poorly in the season, and then we had this fantastic run that took us to the top of the league. And since then, it's been tricky and it's not been so good. And some of that's been against good teams, like, the 0-0 against Liverpool. For me, that was 2 points dropped because we had chances and how poor Liverpool were at the time. Then we dropped points against Chelsea. Then we dropped points, obviously, tonight as well. But some of these games, you expect to drop points in. But when they come back to back to back like they have done at the moment, you don't expect that. And in terms of why it's happening, I don't think injuries have helped. Paul Pogba being out since the Everton game hasn't helped. And I think that game was a massive, massive kick in the guts for the players. They're being 2-0 up against Everton, then it's back to 2-2, then United go 3-2 up, and then they get that last-minute draw. And that was kind of the game where you really felt this title challenge is over now. And, I know it wasn't perfect and ideal before that, but since then we've not really touched those highs where we were before, and I think some of it is a mentality thing, and I think some of it was the rush and the excitement and the drive and the energy that was created by being near the top of the table and challenging for the trophy was kind of forcing players through, not necessarily through injury, but certainly through fatigue and tiredness and all those little things that normally affect you. We were kind of cruising on this wave of excitement of we're near the top of the table here, and that seems to have all come crashing down now. I don't think the injuries have helped. I don't think that Ole's necessarily adapting to things and changing things up and making us go at games in different ways. It seems a bit one-dimensional at the minute, and he has to sort that. And the players have to step up as well. And we are going to miss someone like Paul Pogba, but that's no excuse whatsoever for what we're seeing at the minute. In the super chat, Scott Jonathan says, maybe we need Ole's job to be at risk for players to really perform again. So frustrating again. Top 4 could be guaranteed by now, but in danger now. Also, Peter Kelly says, just like back with Jose, we were on a good run.
went to OneField and drew 0-0 when they were in a bad run, and we started a bad run of form. Also, Ewan in the super chat says, I've been Ollieing since day one, but I'm starting to lose faith. We've been so poor since Christmas, no top four and no silverware. There's people saying about Rashford having a poor game, people mentioning about Fred, people having a dig at Ollie as well. Mohamed Daoud says, if we blow top four, Ollie will be gone. Do you think that's a fair comment? Do you think Ollie's job does rely on top four? Do you think he's got enough credit in the bank in terms of what he's trying to do, the sort of the way he's bringing through the youth, the fact that we've had this sort of managerial merry-go-round, the fact that he is a club legend? Do you think that even if he doesn't get top four, he will survive? I know it sounds a bit melodramatic when we're sat second in the table, but let's not kid ourselves. Top four isn't guaranteed, and results like tonight put it in danger. So do you think Ollie's job could be on the line?
I mean, essentially what it's boiling down to, and what a lot of people are asking and suggesting in the comments, and fair enough, you've asked me the same thing, but essentially what we're saying here is, if we are shit, will the manager get sacked? And the answer is yes. We aren't out of the top four. We are second in the league. Leicester also dropped points. They're also having an injury problem at the moment. Liverpool have also dropped loads of points. Chelsea also drew against United 0-0. I know that we weren't good in that game either, but they also dropped 2 points in that game, and they're one of the people who would have to do well to get us out of the top four. If we capitulate and are awful for the rest of the season, I think Ollie will get sacked. But I don't think that will happen, if you know what I mean. Like, of course, if we're just terrible from now on, the manager isn't going to be there forever. But I don't think this is enough evidence to say we're just going to fall through. We're still 6 points clear of West Ham, 7 points clear of Chelsea, 8 points clear of Liverpool. And I know we've got a game in hand on some of those teams, but it's not guaranteed that they're going to win those games in hand. Yeah, if we fall to 7th or 8th in the league, Ollie will get sacked. I just don't think that will happen. And if it does, then obviously it's going to be horrific to watch for the next couple of months. But, let's not get too carried away here. These are some bad results and some terrible performances. And some of that is Ollie's fault. I can't, completely agree. Some of that is the players' fault. But I think these hypothetical situations where we're talking about, doomsday scenarios, that it's just an awful period of form until the end of the season, will the manager get sacked? Well, yeah, but I don't think that will happen.
Big Doss in the super chat says, what I think we're seeing is what this team is like when Bruno isn't at his brilliant best. Don't know why we start two holding against these teams. That's a good question. Good point. It is a little bit frustrating. Yeah. The fact that we always see two holding midfielders against a lot of these teams, especially when one of those holding midfielders is Fred, who's just fallen off a cliff for me. He's not doing anything. He's not keeping hold of the ball. He's not putting proper tackles in. He's not creating chances. I know he had one, I think it was it against Chelsea? Did he play a good through ball that McTominay sort of should have done better with? But other than that, I mean, I just don't see a scenario why Fred needs to start the game. We have this sort of thing of, usually it's Fred and McTominay, tonight it's Fred and Matic as a double pivot. It's just not working. And, I think someone in the super chat, Daniel Henkel, says 3 wins in the last 10 league matches, 1 against 9 men, the game against Southampton, of course. That's not good enough. When you look at the teams we've drawn against, okay, go to Stamford Bridge and drawing 0-0 isn't the end of the world. But you look, even the result at Anfield, when you look at it a little bit retrospectively, lots of teams have been beating Liverpool recently. And, we didn't look at the draw tonight. Crystal Palace, not a great team, not doing that well. And we've had 1 shot on target. And, I can't remember that. I don't think it was a shot on target.
That Matic one?
Exactly.
Ball deflected.
It wasn't a shot where it was particularly like, we nearly scored. So, yeah, it's just not good enough. And I don't want to be negative and pessimistic, but I fucking hate derbies at the best of times. I used to hate derbies when United were winning titles and City were fighting relegation, let alone at the current state of affairs, and I fear the worst, I really do.
Ashley Holmes with the super chat. We sort out our defence, now we can't score. And this is something I was saying a couple of months ago. You look at the games where United have defended well and where United have had successive runs of clean sheets. We aren't scoring in those games. We aren't doing well in those games. We can either, and it's still the case, we either play well defensively or we play well going forward. We aren't capable of doing both at the moment. And for me, a lot of that comes down to the midfield, because that's the thing that links defence and attack. And that's the thing that transitions between attacking and defending. And if we're doing one, we're doing one. And if we're doing the other, we're doing the other. But it's the transition between the two that we are terrible at. We can't attack and then transition and defend. We can't defend and then transition and attack. And for me, again, as I've just said, the thing that comes down to is the midfield. And I think, we talk about two defensive midfielders, and I know Ollie's done that a lot, but I think Ollie's first choice midfield is Pogba, Matic, and Bruno. Or certainly Pogba, one other, and Bruno. And there isn't two holding midfielders there. Paul Pogba can play deeper, but he's certainly got a lot more to his game, and he certainly creates a lot more from deeper than anyone else does. So it is a big miss with him not playing there. And you're going to miss someone like that. But yeah, being able to knit together defending and then attacking, or attacking and then defending, we have to be able to do that. And I just think the problems we're having at the moment, or that we've had this season, come down to the midfield largely. Some of that is attackers, some of that is the defenders, of course, and some of that is the manager.
Just in the super chat, Abdullah Ibrahim says, none of the players Ollie put out lack talent or ability. Most, however, lack consistency. We mostly rely on individual brilliance too often. I think a lot of us were saying that during the watch-along. That's a really good point. And it does seem like that. It does seem like it's individuals getting us out of jail. Ross Murphy as well says, we all agreed with the team Ollie put out. It should have been good enough to beat Palace. The lack of urgency from players was missing. Also, our squad is lacking massive options. Again, fair point. We are lacking options. And it does feel like, you look at that bench especially, wasn't very inspiring. I know Dan James came on and did relatively well. He did okay. But, other than that, you're relying on basically children. Philip Glover says, I'm sick of everyone running down the players and manager. We know there's no one above Ollie with any football knowledge. Listen, I've lost count the amount of times we've had to go at Ed Woodward and people like that. You don't get me started, but you make a good point. Mike Smerling says, I made the mistake of watching Premier League years 07, 08 earlier, and this feels so much worse than it normally would even. Get my words out. I miss goals. I mean, I think we all do. We miss goals. We miss good football. Yes, we're still second in the league and we can try and be positive about it, but you can't defend the results that we've had recently against teams that we've had it as well. And the performances, listen, I can stomach losing or drawing against teams. I've seen much better United teams than this, draw against much worse teams than this, but it's the nature of these performances, the poor performances, both individually and collectively. And we need to see a massive improvement if we're going to get anything from the Etihad, because the last thing we need right now is City more or less cementing what is really a title procession in front of us. Joe, I'll let you wrap this up.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say because, like you said, let's look forward to the next game. And the next game is against the best team in the world, who have won. Not just are they, scoring plenty of goals and doing well, they don't concede goals. I think John Stones and Ruben Diaz have scored more goals than they've conceded together this season, which is fucking mental for anyone who doesn't know. That's about as ridiculous a stat as you can have.
As Steve Bruce getting 19 goals from centre-back in 1991.
Yeah, your two centre-backs scoring more than they concede is absolutely ludicrous. So it's not as though we're going to find it any easier to break them down than we did Crystal Palace today. It's going to be really difficult. It's going to be horrible. Again, it's almost like before the game today, or yesterday when we were doing the preview, I said they've got tons of injuries. They've been riding the luck in recent games, and they absolutely have Crystal Palace. United are due a result. United are due some players to come back. It's so obvious we'll win that we won't win, and we haven't won. And almost at the weekend, my only hope, the only saving grace for that game against Manchester City is it's so obvious we'll lose that we might not. And other than that, that's all I've got. Do you know what I mean? I can't say how we're going to break them down. I can't say how we're going to stop them scoring. The only thing that might mean we don't lose is that it's so obvious we will.
Sad times. Just before we wrap up, Miguel Garcia in the super chat says, this game has just shown me we have good average players. We lack world-class players like Bruno to pull us through the finish line. It's going to be 10 years without a Premier League title. 10. We now go to Man City. Just before we end as well, we spoke earlier about the OneFootball app. If you've not done so, check that out. There's a link, I think, in the description and in the pin chat as well.
It's a free app, so you might as well give it a go. It's really good.
Free app. It's got all the latest news, transfer rumours, analysis as well. It gives you the sort of the games as well. If you go on there, when there's a game on, it'll give you a running commentary. It'll let you know what's going on in terms of all the sort of football news as well. Not just Manchester United news, but as you'd expect from OneFootball, all the latest news when it comes to football. So make sure you are checking out that free app. That's been Joe Smith. Joe, where can people find you?
Joe Smith 93 on Twitter, and probably in a gutter somewhere trying to drown my sorrows.
In a gutter trying to drown his sorrows. I've been Jay Motti. If you're not subscribing to the channel, then please do. This has been Stretford Paddock Live. Thanks for watching.